Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So decided to get back on tinkering with this Cubota Cadet project again, and I really want to try to get this engine moved back. I don't want it sticking out the front, and I really don't want to modify the hood. I want to try to keep it as original looking as possible. So I got the steering wheel removed. I started to kind of mushroom over the shaft on here, but I was able to heat it up and get the steering wheel off. I'd ultimately like to keep this dash in the same spot. Obviously the steering shaft would have to stay the same. So I'm thinking I can gain a little room by getting rid of the battery box here and trimming a little bit off the front of this area. If I can move the clutch back about 2 or 3 inches, I think we might be golden. So before I do that, I don't want to cut anything unnecessarily. It's kind of one of those measure twice, cut once type things. I'm going to remove this universal joint off the crank of the engine, remove this little belly pan that we talked about in the last video, and see just how much room I really need to have, and if there's anything else we can do as a workaround. So I'm just going to do that and check back in here in a second, let you know what I found. I think I'm on revision 3 of what I plan on doing with this thing. So like I said, I want to alleviate cutting or changing anything more than I have to, because my goal is to retain the OEM look and just have the diesel engine in it instead. So, you know, I got that plate out of here. I tried setting the engine in, and the oil pan is still just hitting on this front cross member a little bit. You know, and if I start cutting back here, we lose the battery location, plus the steering shaft really comes to about here anyway, so I can only move this thing back about 2 inches, and I still don't think that's quite going to give me enough clearance, even, you know, moving this clutch assembly back. And then by doing that, I'm changing the retaining location of this and just the general ergonomics as a whole with the clutch pedal. So I'd really like to not change that. So then I just got to thinking, like, well, the only thing that's really impeding me now is this cross member for the front axle. And why can't I move that forward, right? So getting the engine in here pretty much anywhere I want, and if I slide this axle forward, besides, you know, grinding these welds and re-welding it up here, the only thing that's going to change look-wise is the front wheels are going to be pushed a little more forward ahead, which I don't have a problem with. And the only other fabrication I'd have to do is just lengthen this this rod here for the steering, which that's easy. I mean, so I think that's what I'm gonna do. I can retain the whole back look of this. The front grille will still bolt in at the front, which is the hood support for the top. So basically the whole front square, battery, clutch, engine area will be exactly the same as the original 72. The only difference is the front wheels are going to be pushed, I don't know, maybe 6 inches forward, which honestly I don't think will look too bad, because I want to put the rice and cane type tires in the front to make it look four-wheel drive, being as that most Kubotas are, and again to make it look a little different. So I think that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to get to cleaning up, removing this steering rod here, and seeing what I got for welds that I need to grind out so we can remove this front axle. I think at that point I'll just work on getting the engine installed, or figuring out where I want to mock it up for mounts, get some mounts made. And this front cross member and axle, that'll be like at the end of the deal. We'll get the engine where it needs to be first, and then we'll get that tacked up basically as far back as I can. And you know, we won't know where that is until we get the engine in. So get out the grinding wheel, let's get this front axle assembly removed. So I decided to flip the tractor up to get a better look and kind of give you a better idea of what we're looking at here. So here's that clutch pedal assembly that goes back to, I think this is for a transmission brake, so it stops the tractor at the same time that you're disengaging the clutch. But anyway, trying to move this clutch assembly back or down in this view, really I'm only going to get, like I said, about 1.5 inches or 2 inches, because the bottom of the steering stem is here, and I really can't change those ergonomics. So by removing this cross member for the front axle assembly, will be able to move it up and give me the room that I need. And again, the only modification that's going to change is this linkage here from the bottom of the steering box up to the rack up here for the steering wheel. So lengthen that out, whatever length we need to, whatever it is later when we find out, and should be good to go. So just for ease of getting this removed, I'm going to take this front axle assembly out, the wheels and stuff, and kind of give me a little more room to work around. It looks like this thing's just tack welded in. I mean, there's some tacks here on the sides, and then this front clamp assembly where the bar was for the mule drive for the mower, that can get taken off completely. So I'm going to try to loosen up this stuff and remove as much of the steering components as I can, just to get better access with the grinder and get that popped off. I think it's going to be easier to work on in this position anyway. So I was reading online how to get this front axle pivot pin out. It's what allows the axle to pivot in the frame, and everyone was saying it's not ever going to come out. You're going to have to cut it or somehow put it into some kind of press or whatever. So I figured I'd give it a shot. I gave it one good whack on the front with the I think this is a 5-pound, just a 5-pound sledge, but anyway, I whacked it down and popped it right out. So I got another pin to finish driving this pin out, and that should free this whole front axle wheel assembly. Here's the steering rod linkage over here. I've already disconnected that, and I'm just going to kind of grab on this side over here. Got a ratchet strap through here to kind of help hold it for me. Tractor's blocked up, not going to go anywhere, so we should be good. Should be being the key word. Hopefully we can just finish driving this pin out easily enough with one hand. There we go. And it looks pretty worn in there too. Alright, so that pin's out, my punch is out, and this should slide out of the frame. There we go. That'll do it. Take my handy dandy helper hook off and away she goes. So with that axle assembly being removed from here, you can see that this channel, it's got a tack weld here, a tack weld here. This hook is welded pretty good there, but we're gonna cut that off anyway. And then the other side's the same, so there really isn't much holding that on there. And then like I said, once the engine's in and where we want it, we'll just move this channel up, you know, wherever, even if I need to extend the frame out in the front, which I don't think I will. If that's the case, then I'll put a weight box up here or something and make it look good. So I'm gonna start grinding. Then of course I wasn't recording, but got that to pop off, so we're good. Headed to the other side. Let's try this. leverage. There we go. Whew. And patch that a little bit. Sweet. Hot metal. Well, now that that's off, I'm just gonna run my grinding wheel on here a little bit just to kind of clean it up so I don't get any cuts if I run my hand under there. And we'll do some final cleanup later when we go to paint. But for now, just want to clean it up so I don't hurt myself, set it back down, and see where this engine goes. So I've got this thing on blocks in the back because this left rear tire is completely destroyed and it keeps twisting the frame. So I got it pretty much leveled up how I want. Got some blocks under here holding the front end, and like really to this point, I mean, we could just extend this frame out any length we need, which I don't want to make it any longer than I have to. I'm just going to kind of throw this thing up in here and see where we're at. So plenty of room there now. What I do want to do is try to, oh wow, you know what I could do? I could bolt this front of the clutch. Let's see, I think I could bolt that right into the engine. And I wouldn't even need that extension shaft. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So here's where you need to use your imagination. This isn't obviously in here level or straight, but I'd like to keep this flange of the engine as close to this clutch as possible and not have to put this shaft in, because that adds a lot more length. So I'm thinking these 3 bolts, I'm going to take these out so you can see here, are what hold that shaft onto this crank pulley. So instead of using that universal joint with the spline, I'm wondering, let me try to slide this forward a little bit, if I can't just use this part of the clutch and bolt it right on here, because this was bolted onto the crank of the other engine, so what's the difference, right? I can just cut off this pilot bearing here, get it centered up, drill some new holes, and I think we're golden. Yes sir. The radiator is going to have to be addressed. On the old Cubota, it was behind the engine here. I have that radiator. I don't think it's going to fit anyway, just for height. So what I think I'm going to do is get like an ATV radiator, and it'll just get mounted here. It'll still be, I guess, in front of the fan for airflow, but behind it orientation, but be a little smaller, but maybe I can get a higher capacity flow for it. Alright, so I think that's what we're going to do. So this is the front part of that clutch assembly, and the outer part of this used to fit inside this hole in the crank of the old Kohler. And then there were, well, there's one broken, but there were 4 bolts on there that would bolt from this side and hold it in place. So it basically would just get bolted directly onto the crankshaft like that. So basically we're just gonna do the same thing and bolt it onto crankshaft of the Cubota. So what I'll have to do is this section here, I'll have to cut that off so that this is flush on the back, and then I'm really gonna have to do some good math skills here to make sure we get this centered properly. But the extension shaft that used to go on here, I can use that as my template to figure out where my holes need to be. And we'll just drill 3 holes in there. We'll be able to bolt this clutch plate directly to the back side of the crank on the diesel. and I think we're golden, you know. So what I'm going to do at this point, I'll probably end up replacing the clutch just so I have a good one in there. But I want to get this bolted on here and lined up with that clutch, and then I'll take my measurements or readings to figure out engine mounts, where they need to go. I'll probably end up bolting angle iron onto the side of the engine here, sticking out, sitting inside the trough, if you will, of the Cadet. So fortunately it's really pretty easy, you know. If you have a vertical angle iron up and down on the engine here, sticking out sideways, it makes like a wing on each side that'll just sit on top of here. Hopefully that will work, and if so, then all I got to do is drill some holes and bolt everything in. I would like to get some type of rubber isolator in there to reduce vibration. The Cubota obviously had the rubber mounts, but the Kohler didn't. It was just bolted block directly to the frame, so we'll see how it goes. If I can get some mounts in there, that'd be great. If not, I'm not going to sweat it. Again, I'm not planning to spend hours on this thing, riding it around. It's just going to be to load and unload, take it shows, maybe play around a little bit. But so, alright, I'm going to see if I can't get this measured up for some holes. And we're back. I know it's kind of zoomed in, but then again, not quite zoomed in enough. I basically took a machinist rule and went the corners of the 6 sides of this bolt to get the center of the bolt, and then drilled a little pilot hole. That's just a reference for me. Does absolutely nothing. I basically used a pair of veneer calipers to measure from the center of that bolt to the center of these 3 holes, and I just transcribed that measurement over to here best I could. It's not perfect, but it's pretty darn close. So I've got the circle marked out, the radius of where these 3 bolts are, and I basically just lined them up with these 3 pegs, put a straight edge across this triangular section, everything matched up, so I think we're good to go. So I'm going to drill these 3 holes. Alright, got them drilled. Let's see how we did or didn't do. Get this first one in there. Might be off just a tad. I'll see here. It's alright. If I need to, I can make these holes in the plate a little bit bigger. That one fits alright. This one looks like it's going to be off just a hair. I wonder. Just a smidge. See, I don't just tape the good stuff. I tape mistakes too. There she is, bolted on. I know in this picture it looks like the right hand side of the frame has a little more shadowing, but I assure you that thing is dead ball center, and I think we're going to be good to go. So bolts went in nicely. Let's see if I can zoom this back out. And yeah, we're good. We got a, well, of course it's not going to turn, it's on the crank, but we're good. So we got the front clutch housing bolted right onto the crank. So we'll stick this back in the frame again, get these pegs lined up with the back side of the clutch, and then basically I can use some wood blocks to kind of shim and hold the engine in place. Take a bunch of my measurements. We want to check that angularity and offset again, just like we did with any other, when you have 2 pieces of rotating equipment. Get it basically as centered as possible, and then yeah, start taking some measurements and cut some angle iron to make some motor mounts for this bad boy. This is actually, I don't want to jinx it. I was gonna say this is going a lot smoother than I thought it would, and I said it, so I just messed it up. Anyway, it's going pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this so far. Alright, let's do a quick little throw in, kind of see where we're at with a super light engine. Alright.
It was at this moment that he knew. He f***ed up.
Ooh. Might have another issue here. I didn't even think about that. Dang it. Alright, well, like I say, cut twice, measure once. Yeah, that's about what ends up happening. Measure twice, cut once. So, there was a pilot bearing on the end of that clutch housing that went on there. Well, the bearing goes inside this piece, but this is the part I cut off. That's not there anymore. It's alright, we'll get it figured out. I mean, we haven't done anything detrimental yet. If we really have to, I can always get a new one of these front clutch pieces and use this adapter. So we're gonna hang on to all this stuff. Alright, I think I got it figured out. Well, I say that every 5 minutes and then I run into a new problem. So I'm going to order a new one of these simply because, you know, I cut that. It's not even a bearing, it's just a bushing. But I cut it and it looks kind of janky. So my solution was this. Let me take this back apart. I just kind of threw it together real quick to see if it would work. And I think, which is a bad thing, I think it's going to work. So what I did is I got some longer bolts, and let me get this last one out. I only had one of these. I'll have to see if I can find some more or make some. But basically, I got a spacer. So again, I'll get a new one of these clutch pieces. This one you can see is all ganky from when I cut it. So I'll get the new one that's not, or used one that's not, you know, chopped up. The problem is see, it's hitting the nut at the end of the crank. So I got this little piece of spacer or tube that'll basically go in the back here. So when I put my longer bolts through, I'll put that spacer over all three of them and then thread it in. So once all three are in there, it should be good to go. It'll give us the required gap in here to accept that pilot bushing for the end of the clutch shaft. And you know, I don't know, this thing's like 13 or 17 horsepower or something. I really don't think that these bolts are going to be an issue. I'll probably get some grade 8 ones just in case, but I think that's going to do us good. And it's only going to push the engine forward, I don't know, it looks like about 1.25 inches. I can deal with that. We're still going to have plenty of room, and it kind of gets us back to actually, again, less modification. So we'll have a stock clutch disc bolting up to a stock crank. Really the only thing is we got some spacers. That's the only modification. So kind of trial by error. That's just kind of how these projects go. There is no instruction manual for this. You just got to kind of think outside the box sometimes and figure out what will work and what won't. And lots of trial and error, but you know, that's kind of what I enjoy. That's the fun in it for me, and you know, doing something different that no one has. The other good thing is, especially with having this YouTube channel, documenting this, someone that if they decided they wanted to do this same thing, you know, they could just watch and learn by my mistakes and not have to go through all these trial and error type things. I could just say, okay, I just need to pull the front axle, you know, cut the tack welds off, move the front axle out, and get some, you know, 1.25 inch spacers, some longer bolts, and wham bam, thank you ma'am, done. So alright, well, I'm gonna go on eBay, see if I can find another one of these, or I'll contact my buddy at Bullpen Antiques. He does lots of Cub Cadet stuff. Jason Dufour might have one as well. All good people to use. If not, I'll look on eBay, see if they got one on there, and get that shipped. So anyway, once that comes in the meantime, I'll be looking for some more of these spacers, or I can just get some tubing or pipe and cut it. So anyway, I think that's going to do it for this episode, because I'm trying to keep them shorter now so that y'all watch the whole thing. But I think we're on the right track. I'll get these parts ordered and should be good to go. I might just kind of mock this up tomorrow on my own time, just so that I can get some measurements to start fabricating motor mounts for the engine to bolt into the frame. Hopefully that was looking at me. It's hard to tell. Anyway, all right, I'm rambling. See you in the next one.